Very good Shabbat. This is what you asked for in December, so you have it. This week's Parsha, it's a double Parsha, Mantot Mase. We'll talk about Mantot at the beginning. So it begins, Vaydaber Moshe el Roshei Matot Livnei Yisrael Lemor. Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes. So the Meforshim point out that this is unusual, because in the Torah we usually have Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe Lemor, that Moshe receives a communication, so to speak, from heaven. And then Vaydaber Moshe, then Moshe explains it to Aaron and to the Sanhedrin and to the rest of the Jewish people. And here we have that, so to speak, God doesn't appear in this whole parsha. Except it says, Vashem Yislach Lo, God will forgive our vows that are not fulfilled, that are annulled. But it doesn't say that God told him to tell Moshe, God told Moshe to tell the heads of the tribes these rules regarding vows and oaths and commitments and statements. It looks like Moshe says it of his own accord. So there's a very subtle message involved here. There is an overarching goal of the Torah that people should behave decently. That you should be able to trust people. The Torah emphasizes it when it says, Vayaminu b'Hashem u'v'Moshe avdo. The goal of society is not just to believe in God. It's to believe in Moshe also, to believe in a human being. To believe that if Moshe told you something, it's accurate, and he's telling it to you for your benefit. So the basis of all society is trust, is belief in someone else. Children trust their parents till they become old enough to realize how stupid they are. Students trust their teachers. People who have physical problems trust their physicians. Overall, the basis of government is that people somehow trust the government. So human society is built on trust. Built on the fact that we rely that there are other people who have a direct influence on our lives, that mean our welfare, and that are honest, and that even have a sense of altruism about them. They are doing it for the public good. When that is gone, so then we see how society deteriorates. And we have so many numerous examples of that. We're living through a period of time when that is apparent. So there was a time in the United States, for instance, when I grew up, that not only did we trust the government, we trusted the media. If the New York Times wrote something, that must be true. And it extended to the Jewish world as well. I remember that people used to say to my father, you know, we have to believe it because it was printed in the foreword, or it was printed in the Morgan Journal. If it's printed in the newspaper, it's true. We had a trust that we would not be misled purposely for different ideas. But looking back, that's very naive. So we live in a time when no one trusts. Fake news. No one trusts the media. And we live at a time when children don't trust parents. And many times teachers and professors are exposed as frauds and dangerous. So the Torah wanted us to realize that. So there are mitzvot, there are 613 mitzvot. But over and above all the mitzvot, there's a norm of society. There's a way to live. Therefore, the Ramban says, in his one of his most famous comments, that there can be a person that is a novel b'rshus HaTorah, person who observes all 613 mitzvot, and he's an awful person. He's a novel, he's an obscenity. How can that be? Because he's not part of the overall background onto which mitzvahs are overlaid. Mitzvahs only are effective in a society of trust and of goodness. And that's why Chazal put such an emphasis on the mitzvot beinoram lachavero, so to speak, the social mitzvot, even above the mitzvot shebeinoram lamokom. To a certain extent, the attitude was, you be a mensch and then we'll deal with God. And when the Torah wanted to present to us, as it does, the founder of Judaism and monotheism in the world, Avraham Avinu, so it presents him as a person you can trust, the person that will help you, the person who will give you a drink on a hot day, will give you a meal if you need it, the person who cares for others. It does not present, even though who can imagine Avraham Avinu, but it doesn't represent him as a genius or as a lawgiver or as a particularly powerful political leader. It presents him as a wonderful human being. And if he's a wonderful human being, so then the Rebbeinu Shalom makes commitments to him. He says, I'll give you a Torah, I'll give you the 613 mitzvahs. But if you're not a wonderful human being, the 613 mitzvahs aren't going to help you. That's what the Ramban means when he says there is something that's called a novel b'shus haTorah. A person who is absolutely obscene and he performs all the mitzvot. And that's a revelation, because we are not often accustomed to think in those terms. So you look, it says, Elu dvorim she'odam mochel peroseim b'olam hazeh v'akeren kayemes olam haba. What are the eternal values that count in this world and in the next world? So count them. Keep it all vague. Trust in your parents. That's what kibbud really is. It's trust. A Jew does not believe that his grandfather was a liar. If my Zeta told me about Yetzias Mitzrayim, so Yetzias Mitzrayim is true. I trust him. He wouldn't tell me a falsehood. The whole secularization of the Jewish people is based on the lack of trust. We don't believe. We don't believe anybody. So there are a million theories and books about all sorts of things Jewish. But the basis of Judaism is trust. Keep it ovein. To be nice to people, to have guests. Sometimes the guests are a pain in the neck, at least. All of us have had guests in our house. We all have to admit that it's a burden. We're willing to do it because that's our heritage. But there are no laws that define how you treat a guest. There's no Shulchan Aruch that says how many pieces of fish do you give a guest. What if the guest is obnoxious? And he's your brother-in-law. How do you deal with that? How do you treat people who are more unfortunate than you are? I want to tell you, I go for therapy every day for another few weeks regarding my legs. And part of the therapy is to sit in this hyperbaric chamber for 2 hours and 20 minutes every day, not doing anything, which can drive you out of your mind. But I always look around and I see that, Baruch Hashem, I'm the healthiest person there. I wouldn't trade with anybody else. That's the idea of Bikur Cholim. Part of the psychology and emotion is that somehow I'm spared what could be worse. People don't think that way, but that's the way Torah wanted us to think. So my empathy towards the others has within it the quality that helps me be a good person, and it's good for society. the whole idea of medicine, the whole idea of a hospital, Hadassah Ein Kerem is a city. What goes on there is unbelievable. We should never have to use it, but absolutely unbelievable. I've often thought, why do people volunteer for that kind of work? Why does a person volunteer to be a nurse? To do all the dirty work? It's not the money. It's not the status. It's because there are good people in order to create a good society. B'chnosas kala, we help people get married. Most of the time, that's a favor. It's a good thing. So there's no limit to what b'chnosas kala means. So there are organizations, I'm here in Israel and in the United States and wherever Jews are, that set up a kitchen for a new bride. Or help provide emotional and psychological help, counseling, etc. And the ultimate chesed of Sameis, when the end comes, but there are people that take care of it for you. You can't take care of it for yourself. So there is a basic structure of trust and goodness upon which the Torah is built. Now, most of the laws that human beings pass are for bad people, not for good people. You can't sell drugs. Only bad people sell drugs. You can't rob a bank. Only bad people rob a bank. You'll think about it, the whole progression of laws. Only lately in the history of human civilization, probably from the beginning of the 20th century, has it entered that perhaps the government is here not only for bad people, but for good people, to help good people. So there's unemployment insurance, there's workman's compensation, there's bituach leumi, there's all sorts of things. Because now we are trying to build a good society, not merely to punish a bad society. Of course, there are limits, and the problem is that human beings never know the limits. So you have what could have been a good society turn into a bad society right away. Look at communism in the Soviet Union, based on a good idea. Everybody will have. Turned out nobody had except those in power. And then you have all of the other concomitant rules that come into play. You don't allow others to speak. You don't want to listen to other opinion. After a while, you know better. So that's the danger. So when Moshe comes now, the Torah says, we're talking about constructing a good society. We're not, it's going to be, the Parsha contains halachot. All of Maseches Nedorim is in this week's Parsha. And the Torah is telling you mitzvot, but the Torah frames it that Moshe is talking to the elders of Israel. It's not a message from on high, so to speak. Moshe is telling the elders of Israel, this is how you build a just society. What's the first thing? You can trust people. Whatever a person told you, that's it. Now that's qualified always in halacha. I say to you, I'm going to sell you my apartment for 6 million shekel. And you say, okay, I'll buy it. We don't do anything else. We don't shake hands. We don't sign a document. I just said it and you said it. And Monday morning I come to you and I say, okay, let's go to the lawyer. And you say, I really don't want your apartment. But you said you wanted it. But I really don't want it. I can't. So the halacha is, I can't force you to buy my apartment. Words are not to that extent binding when it comes to transactions. You have to make a kinyan. You have to somehow bind yourself legally. But there's something that the Gemara talks about. It's not something we often see, but it's a prevalent thought. There's something the Gemara speaks about that's called the Misha Pora. That's a prayer. Misha Pora, he who paid back the people of Sdom, the people of Mitzrayim, all of the sinners, he'll pay back the people who don't keep their word. So you'll say, sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but words can never harm me. I don't care what he said. Mishapora has no legal effect. Mishapora cannot force you to buy my apartment for 6 million shekel. However, there is such a thing, because that's not a just society. I can't trust you. You made a commitment. I can't trust you. So then all of society is injured. And not just you and I in the case involved between us. So there was a custom amongst Jews, which we rarely see today, though I have seen it in my lifetime. It was called to be Ma'akev the Kriya. In the middle of Kriya Satorah, a guy got it from the audience, and he mounted the bima, and he silenced the Baal Koreh, and he said, Ruvain promised, Ruvain said, and he didn't fulfill his word. So you could do that. Rarely is that done. I don't know what. It's been at least 50 years since I experienced that. But in Eastern Europe, it was common. It was a social method to enforce things. Like you have today the problem that there are recalcitrant husbands that don't want to give their wife a divorce because they want to extort money or whatever. That's the greatest injustice in the world. It's living murder. What can you do about it? So they try to shame him. They try to even bribe him. But that's not a just society. A society when the woman has to worry whether or not, when the marriage ends, she will be free or not, is not a just society. It's missing. So Moshe speaks to the leaders of Israel because the leaders of Israel are empowered to create this just society. And he doesn't speak to them. I'm not telling you a mitzvah, Moshe says. I'm telling you what your job is. Your job is to make a just society. Part of a just society is that people can trust each other. People can rely on what other people promise and say. The government will do what it says it was going to do. You will treat people fairly. You're the leaders of Israel. You're the example. We see what goes on in the world. Every leader is under investigation. Whether he's innocent or not doesn't make a difference. It means we don't trust him. I don't trust the leader of the country because maybe he likes cigars more than me. I don't trust the president of the United States because he wants money. So if you cannot trust the Roshei Amatot, the heads of the tribes, then the just society just doesn't exist. It falls by itself. You'll notice in the 3 haftarot, which are the haftarot of the 3 weeks of mourning. So last week we read Divrei Yirmiyahu, which spoke about speech. That's this week's parsha. To trust what another person says. This week the haftarah is Shimu, to hear. I can hear what the other person says. I don't shut him off. And then finally, we have the next Shabbos, which is Shabbos Chazon, which is vision, sight. Those are the jobs of the leaders. To create a society where everybody can say what they want. And what they say can be trusted. A society where you can hear what everyone has to say and not feel threatened. The question is, how much is your personal involvement? I mean, if your personal involvement is so strong that you think it's against you, then you've gone too far. And then what is your common vision? What do you see for the future? What do you want? How should it look? So Moshe spoke to the heads of the tribes. He spoke to the leaders, said, this is your task. Create such a society. So Moshe could create it. Vayaminu b'Hashem u'b'Moshe avdo. Yoshua could create it, because as long as Yoshua was alive, the people felt that Moshe was alive. But afterwards, it's a checkered message. It's up and down. And that's our struggle. And in a minor way, that's our struggle personally as well. You're the head of a family, the family has to trust you. You have to tell them the truth. I remember once, long time ago, when I was much younger, much more aggressive, much more idealistic. So I gave a certain sermon on Shabbos regarding a certain matter that I knew would hit a nerve. But I figured, they should hear it once at least. Afterwards, a very good friend of mine, a loyal supporter, said, Rabbi, well, you should never have said that. How could you say that? So I said to him, was it correct or incorrect? He said, certainly it's correct, but you should never have said it. I thought to myself then, as I do now, where is the line? Where is the limit? And that's what Moshe is trying to explain to the heads of the tribes. So Moshe says a father can annul a vow, a husband can annul a vow, but the basic rule is a vow is a vow. A commitment is a commitment. Words count. And that's the basis of society upon which the layers of Torah can be built and where the mitzvahs will have an effect. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Stay cool. And next week, God willing, Friday, we'll meet again. Kol Tuv. Yes.